Mazzei. Stars Barbie Ferreira, Dacre Montgomery, Josie, Totah, Holliday. And producers Don Murphy and Susan Montford.
And over here.
Do we have Josie there? Josie and Aaron running to the stage. Let's keep it going, guys. Yay. First off, congratulations, you sick fucks. That was amazing. So, Daniel and Isa, you don't shy away from social commentary in your work. We have Can, How to Blow Up a Pipeline, and now Faces of Death. This movie sat on the shelf for several years, and weirdly and sadly, it's only become more relevant in the ways that it addresses how we all interact with social media and our digital lives, and how we watch violence play out on these little screens in our hands. The social commentary hits even harder. You've created this work that literally captures how most of us interact with these things in sort of like a time capsule sort of way. What made you specifically want to approach it this way, and how do you think, is this going to be more relevant in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think that, like, you know, for us, the origin of this project was that, you know, we were approached like, hey, there's a Faces of Death movie happening, are you interested? And Ethan at the time had not consciously heard of Faces of Death. And so we went and we watched it, and then we realized that we had in fact seen bits and pieces of it before on the internet, on like rotten.com or, you know, eBombs World, or, you know, just the sites that we were on when we were teens, you know, whereas like a generation before had seen it on VHS tape, and a generation before that had seen it on film. And I think for us, it felt so interesting to kind of just catch Faces of Death where it was today and make a movie about that.
Yeah, I think we've only seen an escalation in kind of the amount of violent imagery that we see online. I think it's pretty much like if you graphed it, it would be like that from, you know, growing up to now, where, you know, these used to have to be videos that you sought out. I think in the 70s, people like sought out the VHS, they wanted to see it. And now, whether you want to see it or not, if you open your phone, you're going to see a dead person sooner or later. And I don't see that going away anytime soon.
Do you think it worked in your favor that you didn't have a pre-existing relationship with the original Faces of Death? You didn't romanticize it, but you had seen clips of it, but it's not something that you were like holding too precious.
If you like the movie, it worked in our favor for sure. But I mean, it's just like, that was kind of, I think, the most honest way that we could approach the subject matter. And I think for us, it was also just like, I think Faces of Death is not necessarily a movie that makes sense to remake. It is both kind of like, it stands the test of time for what it is. And I think for us, we were way more interested in trying to kind of catch the object where it kind of lives in contemporary society.
To quote Arthur, people love a remake, and this is not a remake, which actually makes it way cooler. This was a very cool approach to it. Barbie, I think I speak for all of us when I say we were so fucking frustrated for Margot and watching her through this.
Oh, wait, hold on.
We wanted to be in the shadows.
I'm finding my light.
Go ahead. Oh, yeah, that feels different, right? Like, okay. Yeah. When you let out this kind of wild, primal scream at Arthur, it feels so, like, it just feels vindicated. It feels like you are summoning from ancestors for every woman that has been told that she is overreacting. When you let out a kind of scream like that, is that something that you play around with? Do you rehearse it, or do you just kind of let it fly in the moment and let it dictate? What is the evolution of a scream like that?
Wow, that's a great question. For that one, I really wanted it to be something that I was really present with. We had done like so many days of like really intense physical work, and also there were like body parts everywhere, blood, and it like affects your psyche. Like, you don't know it's fake, really. Your body takes it in as like you're swimming in blood and body parts. So I felt like it was, you know, I was in this tense moment where I've been like so in that world, like plastic and blood and just like high stakes, that I just like let it out. I don't like to rehearse that too much because I feel like that one was fun. Like it had come out of.
It's not scripted. Like that was, we were like about to shoot the murder scene, and Barbie goes, "He screamed at me yesterday, and I didn't like that. Can I scream back?" She was like, I feel like I need to scream back at him. I feel like, so it came from like a very honest and like,
it was also,
place.
yeah, literally I was like, he screamed in my face, and that was also not scripted, I don't believe. Was it? No. So I was like, I need to get back at him, because I feel like that's what Margot would want to do too. And I just kind of was like, I need to get the primal reaction of killing a man, which I've never done. So, but yeah.
And you let that marinate for a day before you had your response scream too, so it was just brewing inside.
I literally was like, I got kind of angry. Also, Dacre and I were like not allowed to talk a lot. We were just like fighting and like screaming at each other. So it felt like I was really in it. And he was creepy as hell, obviously. So that was freaky. It's a compliment.
Thank you, question mark. Speaking of creepy as hell, Dacre, we chatted recently and I mentioned this is kind of like a Buffalo Bill for the social media age, but it's also kind of, you're like the antithesis of Superman. Like you've got your glasses and your Clark Kent, and then you take them off and put in those creepy ass red contacts and a literal mask. Can you talk about how that kind of helps shape your performance? Because you change your performance when you're playing the sheep and the wolf. Like you can watch you transform as you're playing like the duality of Arthur.
Yeah, I usually like create a perfume when I play a character, because I find it smells something that's just for me as opposed to people watching, and it's super intense. And it was what I did to separate the different characters that Arthur plays in his life, because I just find that to be kind of intoxicating in the way into the Clark Kent be the Superman or whatever it is. In this case, it's not a superhero. So, but that honestly is like the bare bones of just how I differentiated between, other than my character, like what I do outside of that, just from a smell standpoint, to be like, now I'm in someone's house and this is my public mask versus my private mask at home, and this is what that mask smells like, literally. It's all over my body and my clothes, and I realize that probably sounds even more creepy than
I did the same thing, but with like an oil that I thought Margot would have. Not quite as interesting.
No, it's nice, but I think smell is super, and I do it for every character I play, but it's nice because he has multiple different kind of characters, I guess, that he plays in his life. But I think I was mostly interested in really analyzing like what's the small like broken child deep inside, because I think then maybe you're hopefully able to humanize the villain, even though he's awful and what he's done and is doing is like unforgivable and all that sort of stuff. I just think everyone that I was given to study by Danny and everyone that I studied in real life, who had all the kinds of people in this country in particular that committed awful acts like this, often have really troubled childhoods, and I think that's more interesting, like from a psychological standpoint.
What are his different I need to know what Arthur smells like when he's like doing killing, and what he smells like when he's like working at his day job. Like,
it just makes me sound even more like a creep. So.
Florals, musky, I don't know. All right. Josie, do you have a mic down there? Can we pass it down? Hi.
Hi.
Your character's death is incredibly brutal, and it's Arthur taking artistic license. We spent some time with your character, so it makes it hit a little bit harder when we see that final reveal. It's so gruesome, actually, that you're on the cover of Fangoria magazine, and we couldn't show it on social media or on our website.
I'm on the cover.
Cover girl. Can you talk about kind of just that kill scene and how the effects team created that mannequin of you and what it was like to see that for the first time?
It was very cool. I got to get my head cast in a sort of gel-like goo, and I took a lot of Klonopin, which helped. And they masked it, and it was beautiful. And I think they did a great job. I feel really well represented.
Who has that? Is that just in someone's house? Do you have that?
The Klonopin, or
the Klonopin? I'll see you after the show. The
head.
Also the
I
head.
want the head. I want the head. Whoever has my head, I want it. I don't know. I think it's property of. I bet you it's in your bedroom, Danny. It's in Danny's bedroom. My head's in Danny's bedroom.
Daniel's being real quiet on that question of where. I don't know where that is. All right. Aaron, you are a pretty good friend to Margot. You're kind of the only one who at least kind of sort of tries to believe her without, you're also trying not to enable. No one in her life is great, like if we're being totally honest here, but you are probably the best. But that scene where your character is fighting against Arthur in the apartment, that's like, besides Margot, that's like the hardest anyone fights, and it's very, very physical. Did you get to do some of that fight choreography, and what was that like?
Yeah, I did all of it. That was sort of my, I don't know who I told first, but when I saw the fight and I spoke to the stunt team, I said, I want to make sure that if he didn't cheat with the drugs, that I would have kicked his ass. And I think it kind of shows that. I think it kind of shows. I just hate the tropes in horror films where, you know, you sort of just let it happen. And I wanted to really, show some guns for a second, you know? Especially for a queer character, you know, I wanted to really stand the ground for him, so I have a lot of bruises to show for it.
He was pretty tough, which I actually really appreciated.
And I just want to shout out that fight scene was Adrena Wunner. So it was in the middle of a 3.5 minute one shot. And so it was like, for both of them, perfectly choreographed, perfectly timed, and like super high pressure, and they just nailed it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's why I threw myself on that table.
And can you guys reenact that right now for us to remember the choreography? Dawn and Susan, you guys have been working on this for a very, very, very long time. We're in an age where it's a very real possibility that you could watch 5 deaths either accidentally or on purpose before you even have breakfast. So when you were kind of approached with this concept by Daniel and Isa, what was it that made you think like, yes, this is it? Was that kind of a light bulb moment where there's like, this is the thing that we've been looking for to bring this to life?
It was actually, because we met loads of like young up and coming hot directors, and their take just really hit us like a ton of bricks, and we were very, very happy, obviously, that there's a woman involved in it, that Isa's there, and so we felt we'd get a really interesting movie with her perspective as well.
Yeah, what had happened was we had almost made this movie about 4 different times with 4 different companies, and had never given up hope, but figured it'll just happen whenever it happens. And then we were working with Legendary on another movie, and a younger executive called and said, "Are you still doing Faces of Death?" It's like, yeah. Didn't believe a word they were saying. Like, oh, well, we want to do it. You do you? And negotiated a deal, and like Susan said, it was great for us. We got to meet every person in the horror space who was, you know, working. A lot of them have been doing stuff recently. And these guys came in and just was like, you know, that's a cool take, because it's about a movie that's about a movie that's about a movie. It's just, that was really cool, and here we are.
We'd also seen Cam, which was the closest thing that we could imagine, obviously, because we didn't know if it was real or not, and it was really, really impressive. So.
Amazing. I feel like there are 2 types of people in this world. Like when you first learn about the existence of Faces of Death, you're either the type of person that's like, I gotta find this tape and watch it, or you're the kind of person that's like, I don't ever need to see that. I'm curious which camp you fall into.
I think by the time I watched it, it was kind of from the perspective of like, well, this is just really interesting, and like, it's interesting that this movie had the impact it had, just because like, I think from a modern day lens, you're like, these makeup effects aren't that convincing. Like, the monkey brain is a piece of cauliflower if you pause the film, like, you know, and like, but that's something that like a lot of young people saw and were like, whoa, that's a brain. But like, the perceptivity of our eyes is just different now. And I think that for me, it was just such an interesting kind of reflection of the culture. So the third intellectual viewer, I don't know.
You're the secret third thing, yeah.
Basically, if there's something fucked up, I want to see it. I will go down every rabbit hole, which actually came in handy because part of my job on this was sourcing some of the more fucked up snuff that you see on screen with Paris Peterson. Shout out, he's out here. He helped me. We both were very, very traumatized watching a lot of internet death videos. But yeah, now people just send them to me all the time, and you know, it's just.
I also would look at something fucked up. In fact, I asked them to send me some of the videos at like 7 a.m. to watch, and I did, and yep, I'm still processing that, but all good.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, yeah, I'm pretty, I think that the irony of all of this is we're all so desensitized, right? Like to so much stuff. So I think I probably watch a lot of like fucked up shit, basically. And I think in particular, I'm a huge horror fan. I'm trying to pivot now from that answer, but yeah, I'm a massive horror fan. So just as a viewer, so like it's just awesome to be a part of this. And I think horror is such a great way to discuss really intense and difficult subjects that people honestly wouldn't come and buy movie tickets for otherwise, and kind of disguise it, and then at the end go, bam, and now here's something to kind of send you home with. So hopefully everyone took something out of today. I certainly did.
So what had happened with us, and we have to give a shout out to Rick Benatar somewhere out there, about 15 years ago, we were sitting around and Michael Bay had just remade Chainsaw, and it had made all the money. And so Susan and I and Rick sat down and was like, well, what else, what other IP is there? And had you actually watched the movie before? Because I know I had.
I'd heard about it, but I definitely checked out.
So we tracked down the rights, but we hadn't actually watched it. We just knew it was like bad. and we tracked down the rights, we got the rights, and then that became the biggest, that's why this took so long. It's, what do you do with it? Because it's not, there's no narrative. And
I mean, it's been everything from like a haunted Comic-Con to a like secret facility in the desert where people that had done bad things got taken, to Dr. Gross being like this Kinsey of death, to the best take.
yeah, for the longest time, we kept wanting to turn Dr. Gross into like the new Freddy. But that never got anywhere. So we hadn't seen it till we eventually got the rights, and then we watched it. And then we were like, oh.
Yes. I want to see it. I also watched the like inappropriate footage. What is it called? Snuff film. On set.
Snuff is the #1 inappropriate
To
footage.
get me
Yes.
in the headspace.
Yes.
Gift baskets of snuff films for you all. All right, guys, thank you so much. Congratulations. Get noisy about this on social media. Tell your friends, Faces of Death. Congrats.